Have you ever considered the possibility that you should feel gratitude? Um, not specifically, not specifically gratitude to a creator, although that is certainly worthy and feasible and it is highly plausible, but just gratitude in general, just a feeling of gratitude. This could be good for you. Good for you to feel gratitude, even if you happen to be atheist, for example. Feel gratitude. Gratitude for what you have. Not gratitude for things you don't have, but gratitude for what you have. Just think about that for a moment. Think of all the things you might be grateful for. So, let's think of some things we could be grateful for. Maybe you have a child. You love your children, right? Maybe your parents are still alive. That's something to be grateful for. Maybe you have a dog or a cat. Everybody loves dogs and cats, right? It's something to be grateful for. Or any other pet. Maybe you have a favorite pet that's non-cat or dog, and it's a nice pet. Like a fish or an iguana or a hamster. Could be any non-dog or cat pet. Maybe you're a gamer. Maybe you're grateful for your Xbox, or maybe you're grateful for the PS4. Pretty soon it'll be PS5. It's coming, folks. PS5. Maybe you're grateful for Spotify or Amazon Music. I don't know if you even want to give your business to Amazon, but Spotify, or maybe you're grateful for your cell phone, or maybe you're grateful for laptop. Helps you get schoolwork done or business work done. Maybe you're grateful to have a roof over your head, to have a home, or to have food to eat. Maybe you're grateful just to have a pair of shoes. There's lots of things you could be grateful for. Lots. And I mean lots. There's a lot to be grateful for. Just think about that for a moment. Think about that. Now, think about this. Where does change fit into that scenario? Where does change fit into the scenario of gratitude? Are you grateful for change? Is that what you're grateful for? Are you grateful for change? And how can you be grateful for a change that hasn't even happened yet? See what I'm saying? You don't know what's ahead. You do not know what's ahead at all. There's no way you can know. You can't say you're grateful for something before it's even happened. So, can't really be grateful for change at all until we know it's happened. So think about that. Think about that for a second. If you have so much to be grateful for, if there's so much in your life that you could thank your lucky stars that you have that someone else in the world doesn't have, why would you even want change? Why would you even need change? I don't get it. I don't get why you would want or need change if you've got so much to be grateful for. But this is human nature. This is human nature. Human nature, and we We like to think of ourselves as special because we have free will and because we have higher intelligence. But truth of the matter is we're only a step removed from the monkeys that we came from. I'm a monkey. And monkeys get envious. Monkeys get jealous. They look at other monkeys. They see that the other monkey's got a bigger coconut. So then they drop their coconut on the ground, try to go get the other monkey's coconut, and they fail. And then some other monkey comes along, takes the coconut they had, and now they have no coconuts. How many times have you fallen for that ruse, huh? How many times have you fallen for that ruse? I bet it's been a lot. Maybe if you have brothers or sisters, dropped something that you were eating, went to steal your brother's or sister's meal. Your other brother or sister comes, takes what you got, and now you got nothing. And you can't get it away from your older brother or sister, so you're out. So if you never had brothers and sisters, you wouldn't understand that, but that's human nature, okay? The grass is always greener on the other side. But I bet you don't like to think about that. You don't like to think about that you've fallen for a ruse. No one wants to feel like they fell for a ruse. Every single election cycle, every 2 years, every single election cycle, we are told change, 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 and if you didn't get the message yet, change. And I turn on the TV. And about 36 times a day I hear change, change, change. These people don't know how to use any other word. They just say it over, over, and over. Change, change, change. Chanting change. And you're sold this bill of goods every single election cycle. Every single election cycle, you're sold the bill of goods, and you fall for it hook, line, and sinker. You always fall for change. Clinton campaigned on change. We have NAFTA and Don't Ask, Don't Tell to thank Clinton for. That was change. Bush Jr. said, I'm going to bring a change. Yeah, and the World Trade Center fell down, and then we went to war with Iraq and Afghanistan, and we were invited very nicely into Pakistan, and I would like you to all to remember that later, that Pakistan invited us in nicely. It was change. It wasn't a good change. Lots of people died. Lots of Americans died, but it was change. Let's see, who else promised change? Oh, Obama promised us change. Obama promised us change, and there was the Affordable Care Act, and a bunch of people got knocked off their insurance. That was a change, and Obama and Bush flaunted the rule of law and the authority of their respective Congresses, and passed a bunch of executive orders. Each president thereafter passed more and more and more executive orders. Some of them just sit all day long scribbling executive orders and writing them down, and they pass anything they want to, any legislation they want to. They even have guys helping them write these executive orders. They have lawmakers. Not congressional lawmakers, not those kind. They've got lawyers writing all day long executive orders, and then they just sign them. That way they can multiply their executive force by 1,000 times. Whatever they want to pass, just shove it down our throats. It's just someone writing something, and the other person signs it, and it's whatever that person wants, and it just becomes the law of the land. Is that checks and balances? Is that what we wanted? So, you all want change. And now you're going to get change. More change. Every 4 years it's going to be more and more changes. We always want more and more and more change. Nothing ever changes because you're still voting for the same two parties. How dumb can you be? The same two parties all the time? Wow, and it's people who've been in politics for 45 years. Wow. Wow, 45 years. Wow. Oh boy, that's a whole lot of change, isn't it? 45 years of the same thing. And it's a big change. So, just wanted to preface it with the idea that maybe by seeking change all of the time, that you're showing ingratitude for what you have, and you won't miss what you have till it's gone. Just a little preface for what is to come. Now, that being said, let us consider the case, a very peculiar, unusual case of Emperor Trump. Emperor Trump. I'm sorry, I itch myself all the time. I get so nervous. I get nervous. Get nervous talking about these things and even thinking about them. Yes. Emperor Trump. Our emperor, may he live forever. And not wishing any ill on Emperor Trump. During the campaign of his father, Donald Jr. was going around to various groups, meetings, rallies, and saying that his father was raising a standing army. Now, before the election, this was understood to mean an army of volunteers, an army of poll watchers, an army of people to get out the vote for the Republican Party, an army of patriots. But the minute the election was over, Donald Jr. came out and said it again, that he wanted his father to raise a standing army. For what purpose? What could be the possible use of a standing army after the election is over? Oh, that kind of an army. Huh. Oh. Well, I'll tell you something right now. All of this has happened before. Those who do not learn the lessons of history are doomed to repeat them. Trump immediately said right after the election that there was no way that he would ever concede defeat. Ever. He would never concede the presidency to anyone. And before this, he was saying that he admired Xi Jinping and thought it was a great idea to become dictator for life, and that he wanted to be president for life too. And the Biden campaign wasn't Biden. He didn't have the courage to say this. He didn't have the courage. He didn't have the balls. One of his campaign managers came out and said that trespassers will be removed from the White House by force. It's on, folks. it's on as a direct challenge to Emperor Trump's authority. And what do you think Emperor Trump will do? Them's fighting words. Them's fighting words. And Trump, of course, has promised to take this to the Supreme Court, which is the nice thing to do, the civil thing to do. Everyone hates him for it. Everyone's hating on him for it. But that's the nice thing to do. That's the civil thing to do. What if things turn nasty? What if things turn ugly? What if the Supreme Court doesn't decide in his favor? What if Justice Thomas and a few other justices rule against Trump? Rule for Biden? Not good. Not good at all. Not good. And here's another thing. How do we know for certain, just us sitting here at home, flat on our bums during COVID-19, how do we know that the election wasn't rigged? How do we know? How do we know that the elites aren't just hand-picking the candidates by now? Because look, it's all electronic. Just feed the ballots into a machine as fast as your hands can move. That's how they're counting these ballots. They're not looking at them, they're feeding them through machines. Those machines can spit out any number that their programmers tell them to. Not necessarily the best thing. The battleground states, even the states that aren't battleground states where people don't even notice, could be rigged. But in the battleground states, they may make people sit down, look at the ballots one by one, and look at all of them. That could take a long, long time. That could take months. Trump says that he won't leave the White House. Biden's campaign saying they'll remove him by force. They remove him by force. They take him by either arm and march him out of the White House by force. I'm afraid there's going to be hell to pay in this country. I'll tell you when this happened before in history, since you may not actually be aware of it. Check out the links in the description. You'll see it right there. Check out the links in the description. Over 2,000 years ago, friends, there was once this happy land, happy. You may know it as Italy. But back then, it was the seat of the Roman Empire. Rome was the center of the world. All roads led to Rome. The Roman Empire had control of all of Europe. So, all of the world that was civilized at the time. And although there were civilizations elsewhere, but they weren't part of the European civilization. And this Rome, this empire, there was this man born before Christ, 44 BC, Julius Caesar. And Julius Caesar was a great general. He had a lot of prowess in battle. He was very sharp, very intelligent guy. Went as far as Britain, conquering as he went. He kept a journal. He wrote all about the civilizations that he encountered, everything about them, all the details about the pagans, what they were like. There was no Christianity at the time, but he was writing that they weren't the same religion as him. He was the Roman religion, and Greco-Roman to be exact. He was writing about all these civilizations, conquering them one by one. Came back to Rome, declared himself dictator. Believe it was Dictator Princeps. And he immediately, boom, like that, as soon as he declared himself dictator, there was a civil war in Rome. over him declaring himself dictator. There were two camps. Was the camp that was on Julius Caesar's side, and there was the camp that was opposed to him, that were the publicans. They were a republic like us. Ooh. Ooh. Maybe the first republic on earth. Oh. Wow. So that's what happens to republics. Okay, so this is getting interesting. This is getting juicy. There was a civil war. Julius Caesar visits. 2 years later, Julius Caesar visits the Senate one day. He visits the Senate, just like the president visits the Senate sometimes, and they all stand and clap for him when he gives a speech, gives a State of the Union address. He went to the Senate, and there on the steps of the Senate, 44 senators came out and stabbed him to death. Stab, 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 but there was only one wound that was considered fatal by his physicians, and that was the one that reached his heart. Will history repeat itself? Does it even have to repeat itself? Do you know our founding fathers was John Adams was saying, John Adams said, that was our second president, in case you didn't know. He was saying that certain things reminded him of the time of Julius Caesar there in America, right at the very beginning of America. John Adams was saying that America reminded him of Rome, of the Roman Empire, that there were certain things that he had in common with Julius Caesar. So this is nothing new. It's nothing new comparing America to the Roman Empire. It's nothing new. It's been going on for hundreds of years. For hundreds of years, people have been thinking about America as the new Rome. A lot of people even think that the stuff about Rome in the Bible is about America. So think about that, huh? Think about that. People think of America as Rome. So now, what do we know? If we know the history repeats itself, what do we know about Emperor Trump? We know this man would do anything now, anything to stay in power. He'd do anything to stay in power. For whatever reason, whatever his reasons, I don't think he's afraid of being prosecuted like people say. I don't think he's afraid of that at all. Like they said, he could probably pardon himself before he leaves office. I don't think he's afraid of being prosecuted at all. But he did say that if this happened, if he didn't win the election, that he would leave America. He did say that at one point. But he changes what he says every single day. I think he really enjoys the power. He's not happy. He's never happy. But he enjoys the power. And he doesn't want to give up his power. He'd do anything to stay in office. Anything. He'd even marshal an army and start a civil war. This country is divided right down the middle. 50% Democrats, 50% Republicans, although that's what we've been led to believe. We don't know for sure because there's pollsters, there's vote counters, secretaries of state, there's all sorts of interlopers and interceptors. We don't have a clue. We don't know what it is. We have no clue. There's really no one we can trust. So we don't know what the real percentages are. We're just told that it's 50-50. Could be fewer Republicans and more Democrats, and it probably is. But it doesn't matter. This country is divided, and it's obvious that it's divided. It doesn't even matter if it's a 60-40 split. It's divided. And there's always going to be winners and there's always going to be losers in every election. Biden is claiming it's the people, but when he says the people, he means his people. He's basically dismissing half the country that didn't vote for him. They're not the people to him. And he said that he would fight just as hard for the people who opposed him as the people who were for him. However, when he says things like the people's will has been done, it really hasn't. And he hasn't acknowledged the deep divisions in this country. He's been rather dismissive, I think. Trump is more of a realist. He's not a fine, fancy speaker. He doesn't have fine words for a fine occasion. But he gets it. He gets it that the country is divided. He knows it's divided. I really even think Trump has a greater insight into the mind of Maleficent than Biden does. Biden's too much focused on the good. Can't see the dark side. He's blind to it. And he's made so many errors. He's made so many mistakes, military-wise, when he was a VP. And also the decision to go to war with Iraq was a major error. It was a major blunder. He blundered right into it along with all the rest of the Congress. The only person who didn't blunder in was Bernie Sanders, which I admired Bernie Sanders for. But getting back to the subject at hand, Biden cannot see into the darkness. He isn't capable of it. He cannot see into the mind of madness. Even though he has done evil himself. He has done evil himself. And feels no guilt for anything he's done in his entire life, according to him. And has said racist things, demeaning things about fat people. He said so many bad things. He's been so disrespectful. And now, let's see, he has no perspective into his own behavior at all. And just like Trump, he can't admit any weakness. Can't be the bigger man. Can't admit any weakness. Basically, a couple of sociopaths and chosen to lead us. We were given no choice in the matter. And I'll tell you something right now. This is the scary part. Okay? We thought that there was a chance this time people would see the light. This time there was a glimmer of hope. This time the two candidates were so bad, people would vote for a third or a fourth or a fifth candidate. People would move away from the two parties. Instead, the two parties have cemented their power in stone. Last election cycle in 2016, 8% of the population, not a very much, but a modest number, maybe 1 in 12 people, voted for a third party candidate. The way the anchor the other day described on TV, he said the other candidates. And the way he said other was totally contemptuous. Totally contemptuous, as if any other candidate isn't even worthy of mention or respect or anything. This election cycle, 2020, only 2% of the population voted for another candidate. That's sad. That's really sad. The two-party system is here to stay, apparently. They've cemented their power. They've cemented their power by doing the same old song and dance, same old song and dance, same old promising change, promising change, promising change. They just do it over and over and over. A guy that's been there for 45 years is going to bring you change? No, I don't think so. And he was already VP for 8 years. He could have brought change then, and he didn't. And then he could just blame Obama, I guess, even though Obama's campaigning for him. No, I don't think so. You're not going to blame Obama. So, just something to think about. what are the ramifications for us? What if there is a civil war? What if this country gets divided between North and South again? Right down the middle. And Trump takes the South, and Biden takes the North, and people have to shuttle themselves around. They have to move in a hurry because they're stuck supporting the wrong side. People are pressed into service. Doesn't matter if you're a conscientious objector. That doesn't matter at all. You'll be forced to fight. And because of COVID-19, there's nowhere in the world you can go to escape. America has become a death trap. It's become a death trap. And it's too late to get away. It's too late to escape. I never got my ID. And I don't think I'm ever going to get my ID. It would be nice if I got my ID, but it's way past the time that it was due. I don't think I'm ever going to get my ID. I really don't. Woman at the DMV promised me I wouldn't get my ID, and she was right. I never got it, and they never even bothered to reject me or say that I wasn't eligible. I just didn't get my ID, and I never complained about her, which I should have. There's the wherever the chips may fall, we have to be prepared. We have to be ready. We don't know what's coming. We do not know what's coming. While there's still freedom to bear arms, if you're able to, I suggest you get a very small gun and keep it concealed. No one has to ever know it's there. As long as you don't enter any government buildings or any buildings with metal detectors, no one ever has to know it's there. You can just keep it concealed on your person. Take it with you wherever you go. And if you keep it concealed and take it with you wherever you go, if heaven forbid there should be an invasion and soldiers are coming knocking door to door to take everything that's yours and then to kill you, you'll be able to deter them at least for a few seconds. Maybe give your family time to escape. It's time to get away. Another thing you can do right now is maybe go to the target range, get a little practice in. Another great thing is video games. You can play first-person or third-person shooters. I always thought first-person shooters were better, but it turns out third-person shooters are actually better for practice purposes. Get yourself a third-person shooter, and or maybe even a virtual reality shooter game. That might be also effective, although I could see you running around and crashing into walls doing that. Unless you're doing it in your backyard. Maybe you've got a big backyard. Get some real life practice in. Maybe harden yourself psychologically a little bit. Get something edgy. If you're an adult, get yourself something edgy to play. You want to be prepared for anything, and anything could go down. You don't know what's going to go down. Anything could go down. Someone could come in, burst into your place shooting like Rambo. There's laws now that allow them to do that. And there were no guns in the time of the Roman Empire. So you really aren't safe in your home or your property anymore. Someone can come in, burst in, start shooting like Rambo, and your whole family's dead within seconds. Happened to Breonna Taylor. Maybe she wasn't innocent, but she didn't deserve to be tried and executed on the spot, and she was unarmed. Her boyfriend shouldn't have come out with a gun, but he apparently didn't. He claims that he didn't hear the police say police, and he thought somebody was breaking and entering into his place. So, anything could go down. There could be anything. Anything could happen. Anything could happen. anything could go down, whether announced or unannounced. Maybe you should play the spy. I know I don't like spies. Can't stand spies. But maybe you should be a spy for yourself. Just be a spy. Just scope out a few websites. Maybe, I don't even like mentioning the names. I don't like mentioning the names, but maybe 4chan or 8chan or Breitbart, or just go on some websites. And do a search. Maybe search for Emperor or Trump Army. I'm just giving you random suggestions. I really don't know myself. I haven't done this myself. But I'm just giving you suggestions of things you can search for. Try to figure out if Trump is actually raising an army in private or in secret. Try to figure it out. Let me know in the comments what you find. Be very, very evil day for our country if Trump declared himself emperor, and our enemies would invade immediately. They would wait until we were completely divided, had a lot of people dead that were young and healthy, and we were really deep into the war. Both sides are deep into debt, and America is devastated, and then our enemies would strike. Then they would invade. We would be too weak to fight them off because we were weakened by a civil war. This is the worst possible time in our nation's history for another civil war, for a second civil war. And also check out the links in the description. There's information about who funded the Civil War. The North did a really good job of raising taxes. They really did an excellent job of raising taxes, and they had enough money to fund their army, but just barely. They just squeaked by. The South was completely devastated financially. The price of goods went up 9,000%. Their dollar was devalued by maybe 100 or 1,000 times. People literally could not buy anything they needed anymore. They just had to live off whatever land they had, and if they didn't have land, they became debt slaves. Living off someone else's land and working their land for them. So it was, and they were cut off from funding from Europe. Really had no help from Europe. Rothschilds stayed out of it. They didn't want to fund civil war for the South. Britain stayed out of it. They were officially neutral, although they did sell ships to the South. But that was it. They sold a few ships, few runners, blockade runners. There's a northern blockade on the South, so they couldn't get goods. And there were blockade runners that came from England, and they sold them ships for blockade runners. And there was a shortage of cotton, but in England, but they refused to use cotton from the American South. And just think about that. Just think about that for a moment, the financials of that. If people disapprove of an Emperor Trump, the same thing could happen to Trump there in the South. They have more industry now in the South than they did then. South is more sophisticated now than it was then. But they could still suffer a blockade. And they might even have the full force of the U.S. military against them. which would not be a good situation for Trump. He wouldn't survive long. But it would weaken our country if there was a war. It really would. It would just devastate our country. I mean, half our country would be gone, and then our enemies would strike. They just wouldn't hesitate. They would just strike us. And they would think of some excuse. Think of the best excuse of all to, in the name of peace. In the name of peace, they would invade us. They would say, well, we can't have war in America because America's a superpower. It's the most powerful country on earth. Can't have civil war there. We have to invade to quell the rebellion and quell dissension and quell the fighting. We have to put an end to the fighting because this could affect the whole world. The war could spill out into the rest of the world. So they will invade us on those pretenses to end our civil war for us. And then they will have the camps, have the re-education camps and the retraining and the brainwashing and eliminating our religions and all the mind washing. And they'd invade India too, and then they'd invade the Philippines, and they'd invade Taiwan, and then the Iron Curtain would go back up. They'd invade Europe. They just spread all over the world. China has enormous influence in Africa. Do you know they practically own the whole continent of Africa, except for former Zaire. I don't know what you call Zaire now, but former Zaire. I think it's the Democratic Republic of the Congo now. They don't have influence there, but they have influence everywhere else in Africa, and Africa's opened their doors to them, and they can't keep China out. China can come in anytime they like. They can raise troops from Africa anytime they like. They can do anything they want in Africa. Same thing with parts of South America. They've made huge inroads in South America, and they've got Venezuela at their beck and call. People there are starving. They'll do anything for China because China promises them food. They'll fight. They'll fight just for food. And same thing with Chile. Chile are allies of China. China's got allies in the Middle East. China's got a pact with Iran. China's got an awful lot of allies, and maybe even Russia would take their side. And it's not looking good for us. It's not looking good at all. And most important of all, like I said in my last video, and please do watch my last video, we do not want a king or an emperor here in America. We just don't. Or a queen or an empress. We don't want that. We want to stay a democratic republic. We want to stay a republic. We want to stay a democracy. Somebody was saying on TV today, I think it's the new governor in Georgia. I don't know if it's the governor or mayor. I think it's the governor of Georgia was saying that America is just an experiment. It's gone well so far, this experiment, so I think we should keep it going. No. America is no experiment. There's been a republic before. It was called the Roman Empire. And America's been going for over 200 years. That's nothing new. That's nothing new. It sure as heck is not an experiment. America's not an experiment. It is an establishment. It's not an experiment. It's an establishment. And it will continue as long as we are all vigilant. And you should look at the YouTube videos I post in the description. Thing that's going to destroy our country faster than anything is heartless fanboys. Yes, I said it. All you gamers out there are angry now. Heartless fanboys. Um, People who aren't well read, people who are poorly educated, people basically all around with a low IQ, heartless fanboys. They're so into, for example, Warhammer 40,000. So into Warhammer 40,000. They're so into Trump that when they see the two combined, they see God Emperor Trump, they go nuts. And they love it. They don't understand that there were God Emperors in the past, and they were the worst thing ever. 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 They weren't all good. They weren't sent by the Creator. These God Emperors. These God Emperors were the most terrible tyrants. They were awful to their people. They were terrible people. Nero fiddled while Rome burned. He was a God Emperor. Learn your history. Pick up a history book, damn it. Sorry for saying damn it. And I'm sorry for saying heck. Just so upset. People, heartless fanboys. And they should know better. They should know better. But they're so into the storyline that they absorbed and that they read, with no perspective of history behind them. They had no perspective. Their family allowed them to indulge. Their family was very indulgent. And now they believe every word. They believe every word that they read. It was a story by a heartless corporation, a beast that writes fantasy games for a living, and they can't think of anything new, so they think of something that is another epic battle of good versus evil. It's always a battle. It's always a war. Like good and evil are always fighting each other, right? And it's another epic battle of good versus evil. There's very clear sides, very clear good guys, very clear bad guys. It's like the Marvel Universe. This Warhammer 40,000, there's the humans are all on the side of good, which is very unlikely. And then there's demons that are trying to corrupt humanity that all need to be destroyed. It's utterly ridiculous. It's utter foolishness, utter ridiculousness. And yeah, that's the way it goes. These heartless fanboys are like, and then one of them says, just one guy out of a whole crowd of people saying, "Long live the God Emperor, may he live forever." There's one guy who says, "It's a joke, mate. It's a joke. Get a sense of humor. It's a joke." I'm not sure if it's a joke to everyone. I'm not even sure if it's a joke to anyone other than the guy that said that. I don't think it's a joke to any of those guys. I think that they may take it as a joke and they may treat it as a joke, but way deep down underneath, it's more than just a fantasy. It's their reality, and they love it. They do anything for it, anything at all. Especially if they believe it. Especially if they believe in this God Emperor and basically worship him in their hearts. They do anything for if they thought that Trump was the God Emperor. They thought that Trump is this fictional character that's all good. And Trump has made it obvious that he's not all good in many ways. But if to his followers, he can do no wrong. If Trump becomes this God Emperor, we are in so much trouble. If these heartless fanboys become the Americans of tomorrow, we're in so much trouble. We're in so much trouble. Heartless fanboys. and heartless corporations, these mega corporations, create mindless drivel for heartless fanboys to listen to and believe in. They have no perspective on history at all. It's just fluff. It's just fluff, and these guys eat it up, and they love this fluff. Probably because they're not too bright. And they're going to be the future of America. They're going to be the leaders of tomorrow. What are we going to do when they're our leaders, these heartless fanboys? Oh boy, are we in some trouble. We are in so much trouble. We're in so much hot water. So I'm just asking you now, nicely, to please don't be a heartless fanboy. Please. It's fine to be a fan. I know fan means fanatic. I'm well aware of that fact. But please do not be a heartless fanboy. Of all things you could be. Don't grow up to be a heartless fanboy. And if you're a parent, if you're an adult, please do not raise your children to be heartless fanboys. So that's it. God Emperor Trump may be coming, might be on the way. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. We have no clue what's coming next. We don't know. Well, our religions were nice while they lasted, weren't they? It was really nice knowing you guys. Whether you're a Christian or Muslim or even Jewish, or even a Buddhist, or a Hindu, whichever you are. It was nice knowing you, and it was nice while it lasted. And I think maybe for a while at least our days are numbered, and I hope Goddess does something to help us. Pray to her, pray to Goddess for help, and you know, prepare just to survive this, and hope there's something better on the other side. Don't want to see civil war in this country. Maybe, see, Trump right now is saying that he would like to start his second term early. I don't know if he's going to start his second term early. If he does, we are in so much trouble, because he may be trying to gather an army to himself and cement his power for the rest of his life. Now, he's kind of old. We think, well, maybe he won't live very long, but I'll tell you something. The guys that are finding cures for cancer, finding the secrets of immortality, immortality is just around the corner for Trump, and then he'll be there for maybe 100 years. Yeah, human beings can live for 200 years till their bodies completely wear out. Immortality is just around the corner for Trump. He could have a really good run. And I'll see you next time.